Brand new open world with bosses to fight, loot to earn, and kingdoms to build. This is the Valheim 24-hour challenge. Welcome back. Valheim can be tough, but once you get the hang of Valheim, it becomes really fun and actually pretty freaking hard to stop playing, if I say so myself. Once I got into the game, I got straight to it, collected some wood, some stone, and crafted myself a stone axe, a club that I literally never used, and a hammer. I used a stone axe to cut down some trees here and there, and then I made a crafting table, made a little hut that I'd be living in till I beat the first boss. I collected some more wood to finish off the base, and ta-da, we had it. It was a little shack, but it was temporary. I walked outside and Professor Jigglybones was stopping by to say hi, and he was a lot stronger than I thought he was. Yeah, I died. After Professor Boner left, I went ahead and hunted some boars for some leather, destroyed a old base for the queen bee to make my own beehive, collected more leather, and then I crafted myself a wooden shield and a bow. I then cooked some juicy meats, and with all three foods, it boosted my health and my stamina. I now was easily able to hunt deer and get the trophies I needed to fight the first boss. Oh no, that's not good.
Oh my god, bro.
I did end up dying, but right after I was able to defeat the boss. Let's go! Right after, it dropped two items, the trophy and the antler. I then fixed up my little ugly shack a bit, then created the antler pickaxe, which means that we can now mine copper and stone. So what did I do? I went straight to the Black Forest, mined some copper, then Professor Jigglybones came out of nowhere and he wasn't having a good day. So that happened. I then recovered my items, mined some copper, after that chopped down some trees, and with that we made a little shack again, near the dark forest. I then used the rest of our deer hide to make some armor, which I then soon regretted because this happened. Yeah! Yeah! Then Joe dropped us some juice, aka troll hide. Troll hide could be used to make some epic, way stronger armor than the one we have right now. I then whipped Joe's ass twice, meaning I had 10 leather to work with. With this, I made both the body and the leg armor. I hunted some deer and then used the hide to upgrade the crafting table. I now wanted to find a dungeon, and soon after I found a troll cave, which I conquered with my god bow skills. With the troll hide I made a helmet, and with the bones I made a deer hide cape. It was now time to take on our first dungeon. The dungeon went great, and I found tons of cores. We also found the boss's location, and with the cores we made a coal furnace. After completing my second dungeon, I stopped for some copper on the way home. We can now make 2 furnaces and started smelting our copper. I then created a little hut for our forge, which I made using our newly acquired copper. With that in mind, I went mining for some more materials to make bronze. I also chopped down a few trees to get some wood for coal. With both the copper and tin, I used them to forge together and make bronze. I then used all of our bronze to make a bronze axe, which would be super helpful later on. I then wasted no time and went to go mine a birch and a pine tree, so that I could get all the new acquired items, including a fine wood bow and a stag breaker, which would be awesome. After crafting our fine wood bow, I went ahead to go mining for some more copper, while simultaneously we were smelting all of our ore back at home. Professor Jigglybones even stopped by to say congratulations, so I went ahead and tested our new weapons that we acquired. He also dropped this cool item, a trophy, which allows you to make the boner shield. Now this brings us to one of my favorite parts of the game, and that's building. With building in Valheim, the possibilities are endless, and today we were going to build a kingdom. or it's a little too small to call a kingdom, so we'll call it a keep. But before we started building, there was a few things we had to handle, including finding a building spot, obtaining materials, defeating the Elder, surviving the swamplands, and obtaining iron. With all these things completed, we could successfully build a kingdom, or a keep, whatever you're trying to call it. So the first thing I wanted to get knocked out of the way was collecting the materials, which was for me the boring part. So I spent the next 3 hours collecting some core wood, some fine wood, some stone, tin and copper, and lots of normal wood. As you can see, we got quite a bit. We now had 1,500 normal wood, 1,500 stone, tons of tin and copper, as well as 300 core wood and 300 fine wood. With this, we were ready to build materials wise. Now that we collected all the resources we needed to build, we wanted to choose where to live. At first, I was thinking the Meadows Valley and where we already built the shack, but then I felt like I wanted to switch it up. So I decided to go and try something new. I spent the next 3 days running around the entire starter island, hoping to find something juicy. And oh boy, we did. We found the mountain biome and a swamp biome. And in between all of these was a Meadows Valley. This was most definitely gonna be the spot to build. While circling around the island, I stopped for a couple things, including these spawners so that I could get some ancient seeds, and a dungeon so that we could get some more cores. I actually completed this dungeon with literally a pickaxe and 6 arrows, so I'm gonna pat myself on the back for that one. I then got home and placed the portal, which we would use later to teleport to our new base. I then created a second portal so that we could teleport back, 120 fire arrows because of the boss's weakness, grabbed some wood so that we could build a house next to the boss's base, and I made the At Gear, which is a awesome weapon from the looks of it, reading the description saying a true warrior's tool, which is the main reason I built it. And then the animations were just super badass on top of that. Now that we had everything ready, it was time to set sail and be a true Viking and defeat the second boss. Once I landed on the island, I created our little shack, and then the boys came to say what's up, so I gave them a couple high fives and they left. And after that, I placed a couple campfires and summoned the boss. Let's do this. Defeating the Elder felt pretty freaking good. He proceeded to drop 2 items, including the Swamp Key, which means we can now enter dungeons, and his trophy. Once we got back from the boss fight, I created a cauldron to make some food and potions, and a thermometer for whatever the hell the thermometer does. After that, I went hunting for some beehives and some deer hide, because we would be needing these items to craft a couple things for a mission that we'd be going to in the future. The swamplands. But before we head into the swamplands, we have to wait for the honey to finish. So in the meantime, I wanted to start the build. I wanted to work on the land and get everything ready. As of right now, the land is just straight downhill, and that's a no-no for building. So I went ahead and got my trusty hoe and then started raising all of the ground, and it pretty much used half of our stone, which kind of sucked, but it is what it is. I also mined into the mountain and got it pretty far back and straightened everything out, and it looks pretty good. For this build, I wanted to go for a castle hanging off of a cliff type of vibe, and it actually went exactly according to plan. It even has a second part to it, which I will eventually expand into and make the castle bigger, but for now, I like it. Back at home, the honey finished making, so I went ahead and made a poison resistance potion and threw it into the thermometer, which finished 3 days later. It was finally day to head over to the swamp, so I used that deer hide I told you guys about to make our bronze armor. And at this point, it was time to head into the swamplands. Let's be real, the swamp is probably one of the scariest biomes to enter at this point in the game. So let's just say I was quite a bit on the edge. But we made quite a bit of new friends, including the oogly boogly slime, the Chad who nearly one-shots us with every hit, and even Professor Boner was here hanging out, which was cool, I guess. And there was also the blood-seeking thirsty leeches, which is always very welcoming. And then that thing, which I had no idea was in the game until he nearly killed me. Thankfully, I was able to cheese this monster and get his juices, which became very useful later on in the series, which is pretty good. But other than that, we were on a mission. I was hopping from island to island in hopes that we would luckily find a dungeon. Due to this swamp biome being pretty small, I was kind of scared we wouldn't find one, but thankfully we were able to find a dungeon, and I was more excited than you could probably even notice. I entered in and we got about 20 iron pieces, and I just ran straight back to base with this iron because I was so excited to start building. I went ahead and smelted the iron, transferred all the materials from the other base to this new base so we can start building, and I made a stone cutter, and it was finally time to start building our kingdom. First things first, I wanted to start off the build with the land. I went ahead and cleared off all the rocks out of the area and pushed back the mountain a bit more. After I did that, I also went ahead and raised some of the grounding, making the area that we were going to build on more bigger. After I smoothed everything out, I was ready to start building. I started off the wall with 2 stone 2x1 stacked on top of each other. I had to lead all the way to where I wanted to put the entrance. To add some spice, I did something a little bit simple, but I put 2-meter wooden beams all the way across on the first and the second block. I tried putting the roof wooden cross in between, but it actually didn't look too well together. So I went ahead and added another layer on top, the same thing with 2x1s stacked on top of each other, and in between those I went ahead and put the wooden cross, and it actually looked really well together. So then on top of that, I added a row of 2-meter beams going all the way across as well, and this actually ended up looking very well together. So I decided this was going to be our basic wall design. As for the entrance, I tried a number of things, including 1-layer entrances, 2-layer entrances, and then I ended up going with 3-layer entrance. And I started off with a 1x1 stone pathing on the sides going all the way up as the same height as the walls. I then used 2 giant double doors to connect to each other for the entrance. On top of that, I used a 45-degree angle wall and only had doors on one side. As for the roofing, I put simple 45-degree angle roofing on top, as well as pretty much put wooden poles everywhere I could for design. I added 2 little peaks on both sides where the entrances were, which I would soon add on more to that. As for now, I opened up the doors and put iron bars there. The reason for this is I wanted to get it to look kind of like a castle entrance. I was hoping that it would look like a gate, and it actually did. It looked really cool, and I ended up liking it a lot. As for why we added the wooden peaks on top, I ended up connecting them because I wanted to put some flags to make it look like a castle. I put the yellow flag because it is my favorite color, and then last but not least, I added some copper torches on the walls, and it looked really cool. While working on the wall, I was actually surprised by my first raid, this being a swamp raid, probably because the swamp is literally right next to me, and it was bombarded by Professor Boner and freaking Chad. They were going absolutely nuts, and I actually died once and got pretty low multiple times, but thankfully after taking cover and parrying them, I was able to destroy the whole raid. I then defeated all the mobs and they went away. After this, I went ahead and finished the rest of the wall going around the entire mountain. I did the same concept that I showed you guys before and ended up looking really nice. After I finished this, it was officially day 48, which meant this was the last day of the challenge. I wanted to complete something that would add to the build, so I decided to finish the entrance. I first made a stone trail leading up to the entrance, then I mined some of the mountain down and added some stone staircases. On the sides of the stone staircases, I added some wooden beams going all the way down, and then added some 1-meter beams in the middle of the 2-meter beams to make it look like it popped out. With that little space that the 1-meter beam added, I added some torches on top of that, and it actually ended up looking very nice. And just like that, it was day 49, which means we completed our 24-hour challenge, aka 48 days. That is it for me, guys. Leave a like for part 2. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. Stay safe, stay sexy, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.